The tranquility of Rancho Izaguirre in Teuchitlan, Jalisco, was shattered in March of 2025, marking a dark chapter in the region's history. An anonymous tip led the Guerreros Buscadores de Jalisco, a collective of tireless mothers and families searching for their disappeared loved ones, to the ranch's doorstep. What they unearthed was not a place of peace, but a chilling testament to unimaginable cruelty. An extermination camp hidden in plain sight, masked by the serene surroundings. The discovery sent a chill down the spines of even the most hardened investigators, leaving them visibly shaken. The idyllic landscape of Jalisco, known for its tequila and mariachi music, now bore the weight of a horrifying truth. The world watched in disbelief as news spread of the gruesome findings, sparking outrage and sorrow across the globe. A stark reminder of the brutal reality of Mexico's ongoing struggle with organized crime, a battle that seems never-ending. The disappearances, the impunity, the fear, all came rushing back, a painful reminder of the thousands of families still yearning for answers, for justice, for closure. Rancho Izaguirre became more than just a crime scene. It became a symbol of a nation grappling with its demons, a chilling testament to the pervasive power of silence and the urgent need to break it, to bring light to the darkness. The evidence found at Rancho Izaguirre painted a gruesome picture of the horrors inflicted within its confines. The once vibrant ranch had become a silent witness to unspeakable acts. Scattered amongst the dilapidated structures and overgrown vegetation lay the remnants of shattered lives. Each corner of the ranch seemed to echo with the cries of those who suffered. Personal belongings, poignant in their ordinariness, spoke volumes of the individuals who had vanished. These items, now covered in dust, were once cherished by their owners. Shoes, worn and dusty, seemed to whisper the names of their owners. Each pair told a story of a journey abruptly ended. Clothing, faded and torn, hinted at lives abruptly interrupted. These garments, now tattered, were once worn with hope and purpose. Identification cards, clutched as if in a final act of defiance, served as painful reminders of the faces behind the statistics. Each card bore a name, a history, a life. The discovery of skeletal remains confirmed the darkest suspicions. These bones, now unearthed, were silent witnesses to the atrocities committed. Forensic teams worked tirelessly, carefully excavating the site. Their grim task made all the more challenging by the passage of time and the elements. Each piece of evidence was crucial in piecing together the tragic puzzle. Each bone fragment, each tooth, held the potential to unlock the secrets of Rancho Izaguirre, to give a voice to the silenced. The meticulous work of the forensic team was a race against time. The sheer number of remains pointed to the systematic nature of the killings, a chilling testament to the calculated brutality that had unfolded at the ranch. This was not a random act of violence, but a methodical extermination. The discovery of the extermination camp in Jalisco sent shockwaves through the Mexican government. President Claudia Sheinbaum, facing mounting pressure from both domestic and international communities, addressed the nation with a heavy heart. She vowed a swift and thorough investigation, promising to bring the perpetrators to justice and provide answers to the grieving families. However, her words rang hollow to some, who saw them as mere platitudes in the face of such overwhelming horror. The political fallout was immediate and fierce. Opposition parties accused the government of incompetence and negligence, pointing to the discovery as a symptom of a deeper rot within the system. They demanded accountability, calling for the resignation of key officials and a complete overhaul of the country's security apparatus. President Sheinbaum, while acknowledging the government's responsibility to protect its citizens, urged patience and unity, emphasizing the need to avoid politicizing the tragedy. The Fiscalía General de la República, Mexico's Attorney General's office, took the lead in the investigation. The discovery at Rancho Izaguirre plunged Mexico into a state of collective mourning. The sheer scale of the horror, the brutality inflicted, and the knowledge that such acts could occur in their midst left many feeling vulnerable and heartbroken. Civil society organizations, led by the tireless efforts of the families of the disappeared, mobilized quickly. The Luz de Esperanza Jalisco collective, known for their unwavering commitment to seeking justice for their loved ones, organized a series of demonstrations across the country. Candlelight vigils were held in cities and towns across Mexico, flickering flames illuminating the faces of mourners united in grief and outrage. Artists responded through their work, creating murals and installations that served as powerful reminders of the human cost of the violence. The gruesome discovery at Rancho Izaguirre sent shockwaves far beyond Mexico's borders, sparking international outrage and condemnation. News outlets around the world carried the story, the images of the site and the victims' belongings serving as a stark reminder of the global reach of organized crime and its devastating impact. Human rights organizations issued statements condemning the atrocities and calling for swift action to bring the perpetrators to justice. The United Nations expressed its deep concern over the findings at Rancho Izaguirre, calling for a full and transparent investigation and urging the Mexican government to take all necessary measures to protect human rights. Foreign governments offered their condolences to the families of the victims and pledged their support to Mexico in its fight against organized crime. Section 6. Seeking Answers in Silence. As the initial shock began to subside, a heavy silence descended upon Rancho Izaguirre. The forensic teams, their grim task completed, had withdrawn. The investigators, their notebooks filled with chilling details, had retreated to their offices to piece together the puzzle. The families of the missing, their hopes dashed against the rocks of reality, were left to grapple with the agonizing possibility that their loved ones had met their end in that desolate place. The ranch stood as a silent sentinel, its crumbling walls holding the weight of untold stories. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of decay and the unspoken pleas of the dead. The air was thick with the weight of unanswered questions. Section 7. Echoes of the Disappeared. The discovery at Rancho Izaguirre reverberated throughout Mexico, unearthing painful memories and reopening old wounds. Families of the disappeared from other parts of the country, their hopes rekindled by the possibility of finding their loved ones, flocked to Jalisco. They carried with them photographs, faded and creased with time, their eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. They came seeking answers, desperate for any shred of information that might lead them to their missing loved ones. The stories they shared were chillingly similar. Forced disappearances in broad daylight, threats silenced by fear, official indifference that bordered on complicity. Rancho Izaguirre became a focal point for their grief, a grim reminder of the human cost of Mexico's ongoing struggle with violence and impunity. Section 8. A Call for Justice. The horrors uncovered at Rancho Izaguirre ignited a collective cry for justice that echoed throughout Mexico and beyond. Civil society organizations, human rights defenders, and ordinary citizens united in their demand for accountability. They organized protests, marches, and vigils, their voices growing louder with each passing day. They refused to let the victims be forgotten, their memories silenced by indifference or fear. The international community added its voice to the chorus, demanding justice. Human rights organizations called for an independent and impartial investigation into the atrocities at Rancho Izaguirre. Foreign governments urged the Mexican authorities to bring the perpetrators to justice and to address the systemic issues that allowed such crimes to occur. The eyes of the world were on Mexico, watching and waiting to see if justice would prevail. Section 9. The Long Road Ahead. As the dust settled on the initial shock of the discovery at Rancho Izaguirre, the enormity of the task ahead came into focus. The community, still reeling from the horror, began to understand the scale of the investigation that lay before them. The investigation into the atrocities was complex and multifaceted, requiring the collaboration of multiple agencies and the unwavering commitment of dedicated individuals. Each piece of evidence had to be meticulously examined, and every lad followed with precision. The process of identifying the victims, many of whom had been reduced to skeletal remains, was painstakingly slow and emotionally draining. Forensic scientists worked tirelessly, knowing that each identification brought a family closer to closure. And the search for justice for the perpetrators of these heinous crimes promised to be long and arduous. Investigators faced numerous challenges, but their resolve remained unshaken. Yet, amidst the grief and the outrage, there was a glimmer of hope. The community came together in solidarity, holding vigils and supporting one another through the darkest times. The discovery at Rancho Izaguirre, as horrific as it was, had shone a light on the dark underbelly of Mexican society. It revealed the extent of the violence and corruption that had been hidden for so long. It had forced a national conversation about the issue of forced disappearances, shattering the silence that had surrounded it for far too long. The media coverage brought the issue to the forefront of public consciousness. The families of the disappeared, armed with their unwavering love and their unyielding determination, refused to be silenced. They organized rallies, spoke out in the media, and demanded answers from the authorities. They would continue to fight for truth, for justice, for their loved ones. Their resilience and courage became a beacon of hope for others facing similar tragedies.